Hi there, this video is to look at balanced equations and see what more it can tell us. Now so far we've kind of been looking at balanced equations and they kind of look this way here. But I'm going to show you something a little bit different. Lots of times you've been seeing things like solid or aqueous or liquid and you've kind of just been disregarding them. But now I want to show you that it really does matter. The states of matter for this equation, that's an AQ for aqueous, this is an AQ for aqueous, this was an S, and this one here is an AQ for aqueous. So let's look at states of matter. So far, states of matter that you're aware of are these ones right here, solids, liquids, and gases. We know about the differences between them. We know that as we got liquids, they kind of separate and go farther apart, and we talked about that with inter and intermolecular forces, and same thing with gases. But here I want to talk to you about what if you take something like a solid and you mix it into a liquid. For example, if you take salt, like table salt, salt that you would eat, and you put it into a liquid like water. If you put salt into water, we know it dissolves. And when something dissolves, we call that a state of matter of aqueous. That's an A with a little q. Aqueous. A-Q-U-O. Aqueous. Sorry, that's an E-O-U-S. Aqueous. Now, aqueous means dissolved. That's what it means. Dissolved in water. Aqua, water. Aqueous is dissolved in water. So anytime something is dissolved in water, it is called aqueous. So look over at our balanced equation again. This AQ means that copper 2 sulfate, that's what the substance is dissolved in water. This AQ tells us that NaOH is dissolved in water. This AQ tells us that Na2SO4, sodium sulfate, is dissolved in water. And this S right here stands for the solid. So aqueous is something dissolved in water. Solid we represent as an S. Liquid we represent as an L. I made it a lowercase cursive L to make it easier. And gases we represent as a G. Okay, so now we're going to start looking at how states of matter can kind of help us. I want to kind of show you this video. This guy right here, he is pouring just water into 2 beakers, and he's going to do the reaction that I have here on my screen. So he's taking actually solid sodium hydroxide. This is his solid sodium hydroxide, and he's pouring it into the water. Now, first the water's a liquid, and then it's a solid put into it, and when he dissolves it, you can see it's aqueous. It looks like it's a clear thing, just like any kind of salt water. Next, he's going to take copper 2 sulfate and pour it into the water, and we can see that that's going to make an aqueous solution also. It will dissolve in water. Not all substances dissolve in water. We'll talk about that in the next couple weeks. So now he's going to take these 2 substances. Now he suddenly has his 2 reactants. Let's pause it. This side right here are your reactants, and this side right here are your products. And he's going to take the 2 reactants, the copper sulfate, which is the blue stuff, and the sodium hydroxide, which is the clear stuff, and he's going to mix them together, and he's going to get the 2 products on the other side. You can see that it makes this like cloudy bluish stuff. That's actually a solid. That's like solid kind of goo. Like if you had, I don't know, like flour, and you take flour and you pour it into water, it kind of makes this gooey kind of stuff down there, but it's a solid flour that's now wet with water. That's the copper sulfate right here. The copper sulfate is a solid that's sitting at the bottom. The other stuff that's made is the sodium sulfate, Na2SO4, and that's aqueous. Now, aqueous things, it's hard to really see what it is. It actually makes this clear aqueous thing. So it's hard to see it in the beaker when you've got a bunch of clear stuff putting together. But we just have to trust that it's in there, because that's chemistry magic right there. So what we're looking at so far here is states of matter. Now we know there are 4 states of matter, aqueous being the new one, and we can look at balanced equation and we can look at how the states of matter can tell us what we're actually seeing. That blue goo stuff could either be an aqueous thing or a solid thing. We know the blue goo is much more likely to be a solid. Aqueous things, it's hard to see them. So I hope that helps.